Hi everyone, this is another timeless reading for somebody out there. My intention is that this one finds the person or people it is meant for, and at the right time. It's definitely not for everyone, so if the storyline that emerges is not resonating with you, it's probably not for you. You can still watch the whole reading, because it's always an intention of mine that anyone who is drawn to one of my readings will gain something from it. Whether it's an insight or a bit of wisdom, or even just the opportunity to see something from a different perspective. So if you happen to be here, I think you're meant to be here. Now, some of you may have noticed that I haven't uploaded a pick a pile reading in a while. I do normally like to mix things up a bit in that way, but I've had quite a bit of back pain over the last 2 weeks, and I'm finding the longer readings a bit harder to do, sitting for that long and so on. So I find these For Somebody readings are my shortest readings, so I might just be doing some of these until my back settles. If you're interested, I would love it if you could send me some healing energy to help me recover from this more quickly. I really do believe that we are energetic beings, and I know that there are people out there who send bad energy, which is why there's always an evil eye symbol on my readings. But it would be so lovely if the rest of us did send good energy to each other, especially when we know someone needs it. Of course, you don't have to do this, but I would be so grateful for any help. My back has been slightly better the last 3 days, so it would be good if I could lose the pain completely. And to be honest, the thing I'm missing the most is going for walks with my dog. We managed a short one a couple of days ago, but he's quite young and energetic, so it was a struggle. It was like he was trying to pull me along, and I was like, slow down. So it was a difficult walk. We haven't tried again since, but hopefully we'll try again today. And once I'm better, I'll definitely do some extra pick a pile readings, and also the angel message readings are included in that. And I do like doing all the different ones because I get a different kind of buzz with each one. So I'm definitely missing the pick a piles and the angel readings, but we'll get there. And here we are. This is the spread for this reading. If you're interested in the decks that I've used here, I'll have them listed on a slide at the end of the reading. Incredibly, we have 3 major arcana cards in the past, present, and future positions, and I automatically get that sense of someone whose life is going through some major upgrades. Major arcana cards are a big deal, and they represent significant life stages or significant archetypal energies, and they definitely relate to the soul's evolution. I see that with the swan on the oracle card too, because swans can symbolize highly evolved souls. I will see what emerges when I start channeling the storyline, but seeing those 3 cards show up one after the other was definitely something that made me catch my breath as I was laying out the cards. I guess if this is your reading, you probably already know that big things are happening in your life. At the bottom of the deck today, we have the Knight of Wands. This is a card I associate with Sagittarius, and the Knight of Wands is someone who is moved by passion, motivated by passion. They move fast towards the things that inspire them. It's a quick energy, it's confident, it's fearless. So this is not someone who pauses to think about the wisdom of their feelings or actions. They just go. They aren't worried about anything that might go wrong. And of course, this might seem like very reckless behavior to other people. But I'm always mindful of the fact that the suit of wands is related to the spirit. And so perhaps what other people might see as reckless or impulsive behavior is just actually someone who is so tuned into their spiritual guidance that they don't feel the need to hesitate on what they feel guided to do. They have confidence that things will work out. And of course, that's consistent with someone who is completely trusting their inner guidance. The suit of wands obviously relates to the fire signs, but I don't really see impulsivity and recklessness as Leo traits, and that's because Leo is a fixed fire sign. The impulsivity is much more evident with Aries and Sagittarius, so perhaps those are the signs we're talking about in relation to this card. I'm seeing the failure card in this spread is probably talking about this energy as well. And I have a story to tell in relation to that one. I do normally start, when I'm selecting cards, I start with the oracle cards. So when I was laying out the cards, the failure card was the second card out. And I have to admit, I immediately just put it back in the deck because I didn't like it. So I shuffled the deck and I said to Spirit, you can give me that card again if it's meant to be in this spread, and I'll take it if it's meant to be here. And yeah, it's here. So Spirit gave me the same card. It's definitely here, and it's definitely meant to be here. And actually, once I've got out all the other cards out, it didn't seem as loud as it was when it was the second card on the table. So I think it has been balanced out by the other cards. So I do tend to have these little episodes occasionally where I reject a card, and the best way I have to deal with it is to put it back and say, if you really want this card, you'll have to give it to me again. And sometimes they get it again, some not always, but sometimes. Okay, so the failure card is the reason I think it's related is because failure might be a result of reckless, impulsive behavior. But then when you read the message on this card, it says, I understand that a mistake is only an opportunity to learn. And there you have it. That's why this person can act without fear. They aren't afraid of failure. They aren't afraid of making the wrong decision or taking the wrong path. They just see every experience as having a purpose. So even if it is a wrong move, it will teach them something valuable. So that definitely fits with Sagittarius as well, because Sagittarius is a Jupiter-ruled sign, and it's related to the ninth house in astrology. The ninth house is very much about seeking wisdom, experience, and expansion, and that's both in the physical world and in the spiritual realm as well. The first tarot card we've got is the Death card, which is related to Scorpio. So this card is in the past position, so it's indicating that this is someone who has undergone a profoundly transformative period. And there might have been a few major endings in that period as well, things that needed to be released. And I'm actually thinking about how snakes have to shed their skins as they outgrow them. So this person has had to shed things that related to their ego identity because they outgrew certain relationships or experiences. Periods of transformation can actually be really lonely because the old things always fall away before anything new shows up. So you end up in this period where there's really not a lot going on. And I would call it a void period because you will feel like you're on your own and disconnected from all the things that used to be normal and familiar to you. Over time, you will find people and experiences who align with who you've become or who you're becoming. But in the meantime, there's the void. Now, we did say earlier that every experience has a purpose, so the void must have a purpose as well. I personally think that the void is where you spend time getting to know who you are now. After all, how can you recognize what does align with the new you if you don't know who the new you is? So I think this void period is where you discover and understand who you are. And this is you, the soul that we're talking about, because remember the ego identity that existed before is what died in that death card transition. So in the present position, we have the strength card, and that is Leo energy, which is nice because Leo has decided to show up here as well. Strength is the inner strength, and it does take inner strength to navigate the void. As I said before, the void is a lonely place. If you're on your own, then you'll have to support yourself, encourage yourself, comfort yourself, and believe in yourself. I also feel like the void can be a time where we don't even get the normal spiritual guidance that we normally get. And while we're never without support from our spirit guides and angels, and we always have the ability to ask God for assistance, the void can still make us feel like we're very much alone because we don't really get anything back, and especially in the physical world, we can feel very aware that we're trying to navigate this world on our own. And even if we have friends and family around us, they actually won't be able to support us. From my experience of voids and dark nights of the soul, my experience has been that even when you reach out to people who are in your life, they just don't know how to help you. And so they will either shy away from helping you or they will offer you some words of comfort that actually don't even help. So I think that kind of feeling of no one can help me adds to the loneliness, because obviously these are the people you thought you could count on. And it's not to say, and I think early on you feel like, oh my God, I've been counting on the wrong people, but I don't think it's that. I think these people do love you, but I think they just don't know how to help you, or maybe they're not even meant to help you because you're meant to go through this experience, of feeling this way. But I think the voids and the dark nights, they're spiritual experiences, and the support you need doesn't come from the physical world. And it has to actually come from within you. And I think that's that's part of the process, and I think it's important to realize that. In terms of me, the biggest dark night of the soul I had lasted years, and I can't even tell you when it started and when it ended because it was just such a long time. And it happened before my spiritual awakening, and it was just such a bleak time. And I was obviously still functioning in the 3D world, but internally I was just so lost. And I once described it as being lost in the desert and not knowing which way to go because all I could see was sand in every direction. And I only got out of that place by making a conscious decision to focus on doing things that brought peace and happiness, and by turning away from anything that was doing the opposite. So if it was bringing turmoil, if it was bringing misery, then I would just turn my back on it. So back then I wasn't spiritually awakened, so I didn't have a name for what I was trying to do there. But now that I look back, it's very clear that the decision I made to focus on choices that brought happiness and peace, well, that was actually me starting on the path of alignment. So alignment is just about the right path for your soul. So every aligned choice I made led me out of that desert. And the point is that my mind didn't know which way to go to get out of the desert, but my higher self did. So when at every choice point I asked myself, which option is going to bring me more happiness and peace, I was actually consulting my higher self. And that's a bit like if you're stuck in a labyrinth and you might constantly be deciding whether you go right or left. Well, if your higher self is guiding you, you will be told left, left, right, left, right, and so on until you're out of the labyrinth. Now, the next dark night of the soul was a different experience. Well, it was the same in terms of how I felt, but because I'd already had the experience, I recognized it. And I also was already on the spiritual path when this one happened. So I'd already worked out that I was connected to spirit. So even though I felt that complete disconnect to everything and everyone and even spirit, I just kept telling myself, this is an illusion. I might not feel spirit here with me, but spirit is always with me. And with that affirmation on constant repeat, I thought, well, this is how I'm going to get through this dark night. So I just kept affirming that I know spirit is with me always. And I kept going with the aligned choices. And I refused to feel hopeless because I was like, I got out of the dark night before and I can do that again. Well, believe it or not, that dark night of the soul only lasted 3 days. It was like I'd cracked it, I'd known the answer. And so it wasn't like the first one that lasted for years. So even if your void experience is very different to what I've experienced, I think what I'm trying to say is this is the kind of inner strength you will need to navigate the voids and the dark nights that come up along your spiritual journey. You have to keep trusting in God, knowing that God is always with you, and you have to keep maintaining alignment. And as I said earlier, you will not get any confirmation or external validation that is going to say you're going the right way, or that to make you know that you're making progress. You just won't get that. And it's only your inner trust, your inner strength that is going to keep you moving forward in the right direction. And then at some point you will find that you're out of it and the experience is behind you. Now, the last card here is the Hierophant, and I see the aura in this card, very vibrant aura, and it actually just made me appreciate the card before it. The Strength card also has that aura, but it's a very quiet aura in that card. But because the Strength card is the present position, I'm seeing that aura there as telling me that you are already an evolved soul. You are already that. It's happening right now. It's there. But what comes next with that Hierophant card is that you're owning it at that point. So at that point, you are reaching acceptance, full acceptance that you are a spiritual teacher, someone with spiritual wisdom, and someone who knows that their purpose is to share that wisdom with others. And that's not something that has to involve any loud proclamations. It's just that when you have that complete inner acceptance of the truth, you will embody that energy. And that's what makes this aura become so much more pronounced, because people will recognize the authenticity of your energy because you're sure of who you are. You're not doubting it or denying it anymore. And looking at the spread, looking at that Strength card, you've been the black sheep, the one who didn't fit in. And you're going to become someone who is totally okay with that. In the future, you see that your life purpose is not about fitting in. You actually know that you were put here to be different and stand out and to get people's attention. So you're here to be the person that people tune into and listen to because they know that what you're sharing with them is good for their soul. And I'm also seeing the difference in the way these two characters are dressed and the body language. So the sheep, the black sheep, she's dressed modestly. It's demure, it's conservative. The clothes are subtle and delicate and muted. And she's also wearing a lot of clothing, loose clothing that covers her up completely. And her hands are just clasped together. So she's hiding in this clothing, and it's only her face and hands that are visible. So you here in this position, you're hoping that if you are all covered up and you blend into the background, it will escape everyone's attention that you are a black sheep. And it's this hiding and this insecurity that is also subduing your aura. And this is, as I said, this is where you are right now. The look in the Hierophant card, on the other hand, is totally different. There's confidence. It's in the clothing. It's in the body language. It's okay if everyone notices you when you walk in the room. You know that you're different, and you're okay with other people knowing it too. You know that some people will like you and some people won't, and that's fine as well. I think you're changing so much that people who know you now will be blown away by the next version of you because you don't actually resemble the person they thought you were. They will see you as someone very different. In the traditional Hierophant card, we see a religious figure who is part of an established religion, and that is, of course, the other meaning of the Hierophant card. That's about order, structure, tradition, doing things the right way, or doing things by the book. That energy is definitely not here with this card because this Hierophant looks like she's a dancer or a fitness influencer or something, and she's got a very 80s vibe happening with the brightly coloured leotard and brightly coloured tights, and she's got the headband and the leg warmers, and actually she's wearing some wild looking high-heeled animal print boots. So she's not traditional. This character seems wild and free-spirited, but she definitely does have wisdom to share, and that's what makes her the Hierophant. She's sitting on an old-fashioned radio, and I guess that is the symbol on this card for her platform, for how she spreads the word. So it's 2024 now, so I'm thinking of social media influencers, and obviously there are a lot of spiritual teachers operating on various platforms and sometimes on multiple platforms. The radio being here, and I can see that there's a music card right above it. And so that's making me think about things that you listen to. So this might be podcasts, audiobooks, or because of that retro vibe, this could even be something very old school, like someone with a regular segment on a radio show. And maybe it's that radio in the Hierophant card, but I still get that sense of people tuning in to listen to the show. And I suppose that happens on social media too, because the popular content creators, people get notified when they upload things, and the people can then jump onto the platform and check out the latest offering. So that would be the modern version of tuning in, I suppose. In terms of the music card here, this might be someone with musical ability, and that Hierophant was also making me think of a dancer. So maybe this is someone who loves music and dance. Or maybe I'm just taking it too literally. This might just be someone who is really moved by music. Now, I only pull 3 oracle cards for these spreads. So for music to show up here in this very spiritual reading, it is an important energy. I feel like this person has a deeper spiritual connection to music. They are moved by it. The numerology card is a number 32 card, and that reduces to 5, which is the number of the Hierophant card as well. So these two are definitely very related. I also get the idea of intuitive creation from this card because 3 is the number of the Empress and 2 is the number of the High Priestess. And I'm remembering another reading where I was talking about the Magician and the Emperor as a powerful combination, and their numbers, 1 and 4, also added to 5, the number of change. Well, this combination also adds to 5, and it's a powerful combination too. But I guess this is the Divine Feminine equivalent. The Empress says, "What should I create today?" And the High Priestess says, "Well, why not this?" And the Empress says, "Yes, I think that sounds lovely." So it's not dramatic and action-packed like the Magician-Emperor dynamic, but this is soft, soulful, beautiful creation. It's soothing. And that's making me think about music that is soothing to the soul. So that could actually be like meditation music. And because I'm sort of thinking this is someone who connects to the energy of music. So for someone like that, soothing music would be extra soothing. It's not an area I know much about, but there is meditation music that uses certain sound frequencies to help with different things. So maybe that's something that's coming up here for you because it might help you navigate this void period. I forgot to say it earlier, but the Divine Feminine showing up here reminded me that the Hierophant is a Taurus card, and that is a Venus-ruled sign. The Empress energy is also Venus, so this may be suggesting that another way to help yourself through this void is through soulful, intuitive, loving creation. If you have a creative hobby or outlet, follow your inspiration and pour your love into that work. Because that's how the Empress creates change. She brings things to life. She creates beauty. The world around her becomes beautiful because she creates the beauty of her world. And wow, that was a lovely message to channel. So get to it, Empresses. This world definitely needs beauty, lots of it. And looking at the Hierophant, maybe she's an unorthodox spiritual teacher because her teachings aren't spiritual lectures. They're expressed in some other way. Maybe it's music or dance or poetry or art. Maybe her work is so soulful that it guides people to the light. The Merkaba on this card is golden, and that color appears on a few cards here, and that brings the solar plexus chakra to mind. That's about boldness and confidence and courage. I'm also seeing the sun's rays in the two cards on the left of the spread. So shine brightly like the sun is what's coming to mind. Failure is just a learning experience, as per the Knight of Wands. You don't need to fear it. I think this Hierophant here is okay with shining brightly. She's wearing the bright colors and the wild shoes, and she's body confident. She doesn't mind being seen. The background of the music card is orange, so the Hierophant's, and so is the Hierophant's leotard. And that's the color of the sacral chakra, which is about passion and creativity. So that fits nicely with the story we've got here. The last card to talk about is Grace. I call it the last card because I'm reading it last, but it's the first card that I got for this spread. I know that we commonly do associate swans with gracefulness, but I perceived this as a very, very spiritual card right at the start. And that's because the word grace has a divine meaning too. If someone is in a state of grace, they are someone who is surrounded by the love of the divine. They are blessed by the divine. And so I saw that word in that sense. And it's a word obviously we associate with Christianity because that's where that word comes from with that meaning. But the swan also has this energy, and this comes from Hinduism. So the swan symbolizes someone who is Paramahamsa, which is a title that is given to a very enlightened spiritual teacher. And Paramahamsa actually translates to Supreme Swan. So this is a spiritual being who also has an earthly existence. They can detach from the chaos of the 3D reality. They can glide gracefully on the surface of life, just like the swan glides gracefully on the surface of the water. And at this level of enlightenment, they are also said to have tremendous powers of discernment, so they can discern the quality and integrity of any person or experience. And whenever I think about that, I think about how Jesus is said to have known that Judas was not trustworthy. And so at this level of enlightenment, someone can't be fooled. They can see beyond illusion, beyond trickery, beyond deception and manipulation. They see the truth. They know the truth. And I assume this has to do with a third eye that is fully open. We do have the colors of the higher chakras on this swan image as well, with the blues and purples. And I'm actually thinking back to why I rejected that failure card as soon as I saw it. And it sort of makes sense because the great teachers shouldn't fail. And I mean, no offense to anyone Christian who is watching this, but if I could go back in time, I would say to Jesus, well, you know this guy isn't good news. You know, you can unconditionally love him from a distance if you want, but he really doesn't belong in your inner circle. And I say this because I love Jesus and I wish he'd been blessed with a happier and more fulfilling life here on earth. Of course, I'm sure he had his reasons, and I imagine if I'd had that conversation with him, he would just have smiled indulgently at the child that I am and then done what he felt was right. And actually that line, "smiled at me like a child," reminds me of the George Michael song, "Jesus to a Child," because that line comes up there. And it is a really sad and really beautiful song. So maybe that's spirit letting me know that some stories are meant to be sad stories, and the sadness makes them more beautiful. So that might be why Jesus' story is what it is. And anyway, but having said that, I still think I have a valid point. So even if Jesus couldn't be saved from Judas, if you're this Paramahamsa Hierophant with perfect 2020 third eye vision and you meet some Judas character, I'm going to say that you don't need to keep them around. I think you deserve a happy, fulfilling life on earth, and I think the world needs your presence, your wisdom, and your guidance. I hope this advice is helpful to you. You might unconditionally love other people because you see the divine in them, but you need to love yourself too because the divine is in you too. And that's why I think you should always consider your best interests as well. That's my advice. I mean, what's the point of knowing what's good for you and what isn't if you don't do anything with that information? I think you know what you know for a reason. This might be more earthly wisdom than spiritual, but it's not wrong to put your well-being first. You don't go and do CPR on someone until you've checked it's safe for you to do that. And you are meant to put your oxygen mask on first before you try to help anyone else on the aeroplane. You protecting yourself, you honouring yourself, you respecting yourself. That is about you acknowledging the divine in yourself. In terms of numbers, 5 showed up twice, but I'm also seeing that the 8 and the 5 of the Strength and Hierophant cards add to 13, which is actually the number of the Death card again. Maybe that indicates ongoing transformation, but because it's not so overt, I feel like whatever happens in the future will be more subtle and more harmonious, rather than it being about big endings like it's been in the past. So 5 and 13 are showing up as significant numbers for this reading. And I just realized I didn't even read the message on the grace card, but it says, "I graciously accept the infinite love of the universe." So yes, that's definitely talking about the state of grace, the state of being divinely blessed and surrounded by divine love. And that seems like a great place to end the reading. I have to say, it does look like the Hierophants of the future seem like they might be a lot more fun, and they might have a lot more fun. And I guess we might all come to see that spirituality can be something much more lighthearted than how it might have looked in the past, because I've got to say the traditional Hierophant card looks pretty serious. So let's try it a different way this time and maybe it will work better. Okay. All right, so here we are at the end of the reading. The decks that we used today were the Tarot of Curious Creatures, the Soul Coaching Oracle cards, the Soul's Journey Lesson cards, and the Numerology Guidance cards. And the crystal in this spread is pyrite. Finally, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to watch this. If you enjoyed watching it, please show your support by liking the video, making a comment, or sharing the video if you think there'll be other people who are interested. If you would like to see more of my work, you can check out the videos I've already uploaded, or you can subscribe to the channel. And if you click the notifications bell, then you'll be notified of the uploads. I also do new moon and full moon readings, but almost all of my other videos are intended to be timeless readings, so you can just check them out whenever. If you're interested in checking out my blog page on Facebook, that little thumbnail image on the right shows you what my page looks like. And obviously your support over there would be very welcome too. Speaking of support, thank you to the 13 people who are currently subscribed to the channel. So that's actually 10 more subscribers than when I started the channel. And while these numbers are small at this point in time, that's quite a big jump from 3 to 13. And the maths nerd in me actually just worked that out as a percentage, and I was absolutely delighted with the answer because the calculator screen was full of threes, so it was a 333.33% increase. And I loved it because 3 is the number I associate with divine creation. So a big thank you to everyone who is subscribed. It's definitely a lovely feeling knowing that there are people who are enjoying my work enough to follow my channel. And I also got my first email the other day, and it was from a fellow Aussie. Her name is Sue Michael, and she's an Adelaide-based artist. It was so uplifting to read her words of support and encouragement, and especially because they were coming from someone with a lot of experience in a creative field, because for me that's a fairly new journey. And it's interesting, we were talking about beautiful, soulful creation in this reading because Sue's art definitely has that energy to it. And you can verify that for yourselves by Googling Sue Michael art. I didn't regret doing that at all because I saw a lot of lovely artwork. But anyway, if you would like more information about Sue, I can add a link in the comment section, or I will add a link in the comment section with more of her information. And that's just a flyer that she sent me in relation to her work, and she was happy for me to share it on here. And because of that email, I've also just added my YouTube email address to the screen because it's not something I'd thought to include before. Sue's email made me appreciate that some people might prefer to get in touch in a more personal way. And I'll also check that it's in the description box because I suspect I've forgotten to put it there as well. So in the past ones it may not be there, but I'll try and fix that up for the future. And that's it, everyone. I'll hopefully see you at another reading. Take care. Bye.